Just waiting for it to set up the live stream, setting up. I've just got to attend in case there's some other button to press. Good. So we're live now. Welcome everyone to our next Ring Around Garland. We're here on Wurundjeri land, the traditional owners of the land of Melbourne. And we're blessed to have a number of speakers from Iran and the Iranian world beyond with us to catch up during lockdown about what's happening and use this opportunity to learn a little more about Iranian art and culture with some of its most interesting practitioners. And just in terms of joining us, if we could start with Afsaneh Modarramani. Salam.
Salam.
Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Tehran, where I currently born and live, and I'm a textile artist.
Wonderful. And if we can go to you, Anahita Anaseri, and where are you?
Hello. Hello. I am from Tehran. I'm a designer and a curator.
Wonderful. And Mahnaz Ikhtiari. Salam.
Salam به همگی. I'm from Iran, but I live in Milan, and I'm designer and artist.
Wonderful. And go across to Missy Saliba. G'day.
G'day. Salam, g'day. Hi, I'm Missy Saliba from Melbourne, and I work here in Melbourne in the business side of architecture, but I travel to Iran. I take people over to show them Iran, and I also have had my own business, Dyad Artisans, in the past, where I've worked with artists and imported their works back to Australia to both sell and tell the story of the artists and Iranian handicrafts.
A wonderful interlocutor. Thanks, Missy. And if we can go now to Nages Temouri.
Yeah. Salam. Hi, I'm from Mashhad, and I'm PhD student of Iranian art and architecture.
Wonderful. And we look forward to hearing about the impact of lockdown, particularly when so much of Iranian culture depends on tourists, on foreigners coming in, and what you think might be the alternatives for that. And now we go to Rehani Rai. Salam.
Hi, I'm Rehane Rai. I live and work in Tehran. I'm an artist. I make objects focusing on jewelry.
Wonderful. And finally, if we can go to Shahzad Aliari. Salam.
Yes, salam. Hello, everyone. I am Shahzad Aliari. I work as a designer and contemporary jeweler.
Wonderful.
And I live in Tehran.
Good. So let's start off with Afsaneh Modarramani. If we could get you on screen and get your image up. Here we are under the big wall of the city. Can you tell us about this particular work of art?
My story from beginning from painting, and then when I went to art university and studied handicraft of Iran, I learned textile weaving, so find it very close to my spirit. I've been working continuously at this field for about 30 years since then. I like the way that nomadic weavers look at their lives. They weave all of the elements around them on carpets. I also weave the environment around me, which is urban life. This image for me is with many buildings, with small plants behind the windows or rooftop, very crowded, traffic and noises. My weaves are abstract by combining design that I embroider on. Most of the time I inspired by the poem for my works and their naming as well. I did this artwork with the feeling I had from the time. View of the buildings and people who are alone but still connected to each other. The poem that inspired me is one of the poems by Nima Yushij. He's considered the founder of modern Iranian poetry. I read part of this poem that I've chosen for my work in Persian and English. First, Persian. زیر دیوار بزرگ شهر در نخستین ساعات شب دور از دیدار بسیار آشنا من نیز در غم ناراحتی های کسانم همچنان این کازن چینی بر زبان اندیشه های دلگزایی حرف میراند من سرودی آشنا را میکن در گوش من دمی از فکر بهبودی تنها ماندگان در خانه هاشان نیستم خاموش و سراسر هیکل دیوارها در پیش چشم التهاب من نمایانند نجلا نیما یوشیج زمستان 1331 Under the big wall of the city, in the first hour of the night, away from my very familiar meeting, in the grief of my sorrows, also a Chinese woman, in the language of thoughts, heartbreak speaks. I hear a familiar song in my ear. I'm not silent about the idea of recovery for those who are left alone in their homes, and all over the body, the walls in front of my eyes are inflamed. Naila. Nima Yushij, winter 1952. It was which I want to talk about of my work.
Good. And what do you think is the spirit that is part of that poem that is also in your work?
I show my feeling about the people who are alone in their home. I embroidered on some design, the form of the people, top of the buildings, and they connect to each other with some lines. We are the one, but still we are at our home, and the city is the empty of people and noises and something that's live, live in our city. So I inspired of this poem.
So it seems like your work through the weaving reflects something of the structure of the city. I know you've been interested in water and all elements, the street and so on, that are reflected in your work. So it seems like a good time when the tide of people is out during lockdown to reflect on that. So thank you so much for that. If we can go to Anahita now and say salam to Kambiz Gohari. Salam, Anahita. If we can go to your work and tell us a little about that. Thank you.
Salam. Yeah, actually, during 1.5 years ago, I started my curatorial project. I focused on it. As Mr. Murray knows, I say to everyone, we managed to collect 4 call for contemporary jewelry at Aria Gallery, and before the lockdown, it was a week to the inauguration of the exhibition that this lockdown happened, and it's postponed for now. It's more than 4 years that we focused on contemporary jewelry, and I myself, with the experience of 15 years working in galleries, I try to just know youngsters and make them be known, especially if they are working through contemporary jewelry and sculptures. In this fourth annual call for contemporary jewelry, we managed to just collect more than 70 artists that work in this field, and they have very special and extraordinary works in this field. And among them, we have 3 juries. That Mr. Murray is one of them. Mr. Geef and Mr. Shamsizadeh are another juries, and they managed to just select more than 30 artists in this field, and we were completely ready that this lockdown happened. So we are working on showing our exhibitions online, and we are trying to find a way to just be useful in this field. I believe that this lockdown is just a force to push this situation, that these online shows can be everywhere, and these borders are just somehow meaningless because of the internet and this possibility. Another project of me was a project about women, city, women, and citizenship rights, that I'm working with Elahe Gallery, and we were supposed to collect works through email during the Nowruz holidays. Fortunately, because of these lockdowns, all artists were more at home, and they had time to focus on this project, and we had more than 120 emails with lots of great artworks, and because of this lockdown, we couldn't just collect them and just show them, but it's postponed for now. We decided and selected some of these artworks that are more related to the topic, and we are ready. We are just ready to show them, but we are just thinking about some better ways to show our artworks. You know, in my career as a jeweler and sculptor, as a designer mainly, I believe that my situation in this art scene is to know young artists and help them to be introduced, especially out of Iran, and help them to find their ways.
Yes, well, I can certainly say from the perspective of somebody outside Iran, the work that you've been doing with your colleagues in Tehran and Iran, initially through the Mahomet Institute, which I understand now is closed because of the difficulties, but now with Aria Gallery has helped launch so many people in terms of their artistic careers, and certainly has played a significant contribution to contemporary jewelry globally. So we've certainly seen the fruits of that and shared much of it in Garland magazine. So good work. Now let's go to the other side of the country. If you don't mind, we might just skip to Missy Saliba, come back to you, Mahnaz, after that, because we might have a little focus on Kalpuragan and Baluchistan, that side of Iran. And if we could just say hi to Missy, and we'll get some of your beautiful images on the screen.
Oh, no problem. I might not be able to see my screen when you flick. It seems to drop out when you put it, do that, but that's fine. I know the images and I can talk to them pretty well. So I guess that first of all, I should say that it was through yourself, Kevin, and Afsaneh that I ended up in Kalpuragan through contacts, which was, so thank you, merci to you both for that. And it was an area of Iran that I had been told not to travel to. It wasn't safe and I shouldn't go there. And I was traveling with a friend and we were traveling around just exploring and trying to find different artists and different craft works around Iran. And we just seemed to get closer and closer towards Sistan and Baluchistan without really talking about it. And then one day we just said, it looks like we're going there, right? And we headed down there. So we were met by local people in, now you're going to have to help me here, Iranian people, with my memory, but what's the town that you drive into before Kalpuragan? Zaraban? Anyway, we were met there by some government people and shown around and then driven out to a lovely man, Navid, and his family's home where we stayed. And we spent about 3 or 4 days in the small village of Kalpuragan, meeting the women, from young girls to grandmothers, making the pottery, which has been handmade by the women of Kalpuragan for over 7,000 years. Their process is unchanged. Their materials come from just outside their village in the desert there. The clay comes from the ground there. What they use to paint on the pottery is ground up rock with water, and they break the branch off a desert shrub and they use that as like a brush to paint the patterns on. And the patterns really haven't changed a lot in the 7,000 years. Everything is made locally by the women and they come together in one building where it's like really quite joyous to visit. There's all these women all around the world and men do, but we love to gossip and catch up. And I'm sure, even though I don't understand the language that well, you know, they're talking about similar things that women all around the world talk about, and their children and everything. And so they sit there and it's great. They giggle, they laugh, and they make pottery. And the older women teach the younger girls how to make it. And when I was there, if you're showing the images of me, I got to learn to make some pottery with some of the older women, which they very kindly took off my hands and fixed. But I said to them, how do you teach the next generation? And they said, we give them the clay and they make something, and if it's wrong, we grab it and we break it up again and we tell them to start again, and they just keep practicing until they get it perfect. So from there, I've done 3 trips, and so I've been able to see the whole process. The second or third trip, I was lucky enough, Navid said to me, we've actually been able to afford to get some fuel, because obviously Sistan Baluchistan struggles quite a bit in financially, economically, and so things as basic as getting enough fuel, petrol to fuel the fire that cooks the pottery, is difficult. So that only happens every couple of months. So they gather all of the pottery together. They drive around in a ute, picking up from everybody, all the women who have been making pottery. They bring it to this one workshop and then they stack it. And I have some other marvelous photos of, 60-year-old women in this tiny kiln before it's lit, of course, stacking it all, because it's quite a job, and you need someone with great expertise to stack it properly so nothing gets broken, nothing gets wasted. So my mum's like, just over 60, and I thought she would never get in a small kiln and do this. It was quite remarkable. So and then we stayed there while they lit the kiln, and someone sleeps there overnight to keep an eye on it. The next day they break open a little part of the kiln and reach in to grab a pot out to see how it's going. And it stays in there for about 2 days, and then almost a week is the process of heating and then cooling it down and then bringing everything out and hoping that it's all worked, which it had. And then I got to pick my pieces to be sent back to Australia, which was another obstacle in itself, as you can imagine. How do we get these precious pieces from Calporogon to Tehran Airport? How do we package them properly? How do we then get them to Australia without breaking them? So when I was there and working with Navid, I would help even with my business side, it's basic invoicing, how to package things properly so they could build their business and send things further afar, rather than, even things were breaking when they were going just to Tehran. So I hope I could help them a bit there with that as well. But the last shipment we did, not one piece was broken when it arrived.
Wonderful, congratulations. And I think what you do, Missy, really shows how the appeal of Iranian culture and craft can have, given the enormous distance and, as you say, the challenge of carrying particularly ceramics, delicate ceramics, but feeling from outside of the preciousness of that tradition and the authenticity of those objects once they're inside the homes of people around, which would go for other aspects of Iranian crafts as well. Obviously the carpets and jewelry and many other things. And I'm sure you're still committed to coming back to Iran once it's possible and keeping that connection going.
I was talking to my best friend there, Milad, who a few of you might know, and just last night, and he and his family, which are like my family now, were asking when I was coming back, and I said the first day after flights are allowed to leave this country and go to Dubai, so I'll be on a flight. Yeah.
Wonderful. This seems like a good time now to welcome Professor Kambiz Gohari. Salam.
Salam. Hello to everyone. I'm very glad to join you. First of all, I must to say again, thank you, Kevin, for all of your trying to record the Calporogon the World Heritage List, and we are very glad. And I think all the Baluch people in this province, they are very thankful of your try and your association. The notice to this very important village and their work.
And what's your perspective on the current situation in Sistani Baluchistan?
As you know, we had several catastrophic events like inundation and the problem of raining, and that was combined with the poverty that is everywhere, every time exists in this area. You know that the Baluch people, they are some kind of marginal people in this province, and we try always to put them up in their situation of life and their situation of working. And now also we are trying to present them in the universal network of selling the product, especially the women in this province, and trying to speak further about them and about their problem anywhere now in the level of the country, in the some development organization that they are this purpose, and also with the different group that are working in in the different part of Balochistan for giving help to the people of this very vast province.
Good. And what specifically are you doing? What's your work in that regard?
You know, I'm out now from the cultural heritage of Organization of Cultural Heritage of Iran, and but I keep my touch with these people and with the artists in this province, and also with the people that they are working on the problem of this province. We organized several campaigns for helping the people after the inundation and the problem of raining in this province. And now again, we are going to prepare some kind of national network for selling their products. I know that now there are different business network for selling the product of these people, that some of this network are very successful, but we are going to create a network for their different products, as the potteries, the artwork of with the foil, and different product that they are made in this province. I keep my touch with the student in this province and with the artists. Yeah.
Yes, and certainly in my experience, the Iranian government invests a lot in support for the local creative industries, particularly the crafts, and is developing those sorts of networks to assist in the country, which is kind of a model, I think, for other countries to look at. Certainly the concept of the national craft cities, which then leads to the world craft cities, of which Iran, I think, has some of the greatest number of world craft cities in the world. And so it really helps people in terms of ambition for their local culture. So thank you very much for sharing that. Let's go to Milan now, to Mahnaz. Salam. We can't hear you at the moment. Now we can, yes.
Okay. Hello to everyone. It's nice to be here with you and share my experience with you. Just like you, and just like other people from all over the world, this lockdown and coronavirus were like a great shock for me too. And during this time, lots of things lost their value and meanings, and we have started to see and think again about who we are and what we are doing. I was looking from the window, and I was thinking. When I was looking from my window, I thought that it was my only relation with outside world. Future seemed so uncertain, and as I only had the present time, I decided to express my feeling and my thoughts by drawing outside world. I have started to make some video for my students too, because to teach them how to draw from the window, because I knew that they are in the same situation just like me. And gradually I have started to invite other artists to join me and send me their works. It's a wonderful experience, city and country, and it becomes like a virtual travel to all over the world, especially at this time that we can't go outside of the house. And then, as always, I started to draw on the body. You know, the body is a background for me, and as a background for me, and change a lot the meaning of my work. My work has become just a piece of body. According to my work, drawing is not just a process of creating a necklace. Drawing is a necklace. And this is just a relationship between body and drawing, three-dimensional and two-dimensional. And I love to draw, you always see tree in my work, but I love to look at trees and follow the branches and notice where one branch start and finish, and another one start and finish. I just unite the branches, and it become a continuous movement because I love illusion, and it seems unfinished movement.
Wonderful. So your work, Manas, often is about the relationship between the body and the world outside, and
yes, exactly.
You try and bridge that difference. And it's interesting in the case of lockdown now, when you're looking out your window at the world there, trying to bring it in, which I think resonates with the concept of rewilding that I think is part of the imaginary of this lockdown, that while the world has stopped, the animals and nature begin to take over. The wolves return to the forests and the cities even. And so your work takes on a new dimension during that time. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Now let's go to Mashhad, to Nagas Temuri, who's a cultural expert. How are you finding lockdown? Because you were working partly as a tour guide, is that right?
Yeah, I've been working as tour guide for about 10 years, and it's the first time that we all lost our jobs in Iran. And not only the tour guides, but also the hotel owners and the people who work in the tourism industry as a whole, I can say. And now it's all closed. The people just trying to keep their relations with their clients and customers, and working on their platforms, online platforms, to keep in touch with the people that they have, and to feel I can say, to produce the emotions of traveling. Not to do the travel, but just staying in home and visiting the places with images and films and the things like this.
And do you feel that there are new kind of connections emerging from this, or new possibilities that are being explored in terms of tourism?
Yeah, as someone who loved this job, I can say, after these years of working in the tourism industry and with the relation to the crafts, I've always been thinking of the gap between the crafts and tourism in Iran. I can say that the tourists that they come to Iran, they just see the carpets and not the other things like the Kalpuragan pottery or the many interesting crafts that we have in Iran. So I've started to work on my thesis about this gap and how we can fill this, I can say, space between the crafts and the people who come, and the people who don't come and just know Iran, or they don't know Iran at all. So I can refer to Missy as a very good example of this, that when you feel how the people do the crafts and how the people make, and you have many things in common with the people who do these crafts and many things which are maybe interesting and special for you. So I think of in my project, I am now working on putting the feeling, putting the emotions in selling the online platforms of selling the crafts. And when you feel this, when you see the women who are working, the process of making, which is unchangeable during these 7,000 years, maybe the people are more interested in buying the things that they see, and the price they pay is nothing for them. Before, when you say that, for example, this is a craft and this costs, I don't know how much, maybe this is for some people, they say, wow, it's too precious for, too pricey, too expensive for something like this. When you see the process, when you feel the emotions of the women who are working in that situation, all of the things are different. So now I am working on the platforms, especially online platforms, with this coronavirus and the people and the thing that is happening, and we don't know the future exactly what is going to happen after that. By putting the emotional aspects to selling the products that we have right now, and to introduce the products, I think that it's going to work. I'm pretty sure that it's going to work, and it's going to be a very big change for all the crafts that we have in Iran, in all over the Iran, not only in the east or in the west or in the small villages.
Yes, I knew you would have something exciting to share, Nargis, with us today, and that certainly is very interesting, and it does connect with many of the other new connections that are emerging, such as the Airbnb online experiences. And we're certainly at Garland now exploring some projects that can help connect the studio and the workshop to audiences in other countries. And maybe this is a way of dealing with isolation. And but meanwhile, I know that you're a very good musician.
Thank you.
The tar or the setar that you play, are you also spending some time enjoying the music and other things?
Yes. Yes. Dotar. Dotar is I can say, the most ancient instrument of east of Iran, which is registered as international heritage of Iran. And it has just 2 strings, and it doesn't have a written form, and just with hearing, you can play it from one generation to the other generation.
Yes, well, that seems one of the great attractions of Iran, that Iranians, you have the culture within you. You can play the music, you can recite the poetry, sing the songs. It's not just something you watch on television. It's something that you truly live, and it's a wonderful thing. So let's go now. Thank you so much, Narges, to Rehani Rai. Salam, back in Tehran.
Yeah.
Let's share your very intriguing work.
Yes. I made ready a note about my work, and I want to read it for you.
Please.
Between or meanwhile my main projects, I practice with non-metallic materials, and in these practices, I'm not inspired by Persian art and history directly, despite my collections. Thinking about contemporary jewelry and body matters from different points of view is the function of these experimentations for me. Not only motivating and teaching myself, but also sometimes the practice may lead me to a mini collection or an artwork. Of course, here, the process of making and thinking is more important than final result object. Today, I will explain my latest practice. I thought about times that I don't have access to my workspace and tools, like the situation for many artists in these days. And I thought about self-sufficient materials that don't need many completing level out of a simple desk. So I choose an epoxy-based paste to make things, and I decided to work with minimum tools I mean my hands. Working on paste with my hands, like what artisans do with clay, and making things without any planned idea and leaving my fingerprints on the piece caused energy and my emotions flow on the material directly. I dyed the paste with color powder, so the base of piece could have unlimited range of color. Every time that I want to work with this epoxy, I will color it with my moment's mood. The paste becomes dry after about 1 hour, so I should work fast. And also after the drying, I can work on it with my professional tools. So I could use the paste for sketching, pre-designing, or even as a main piece. I compare what was happening to drawing. Improvisation process of making is most important quality of it. It satisfies me emotionally, and it takes my mental focus on form as a form without any specific meaning or association. Against my style of working with metal, the process of making things with paste does not take much time. I could set any kinds of material like stone, shell, even fabric on my piece without technical struggles. I found my fast and appropriate solution for each of them. In the picture, you can see the rings that I started this practice with, making them as most challenging object in my opinion. I set shells on 2 of them as a natural form that motivates my visual emotions. I tried to think very open-minded about the practice. I even painted on one of the rings. Thanks for hearing me.
Okay, thank you. And I think what you're doing certainly resonates with Mahnaz in terms of drawing as not just a process of sketching, but also of construction. And
Yeah.
I think in both cases, it's about being aware, being mindful of the
Yes.
world around you and transporting that directly to the work itself. And
Exactly.
so thank you so much. And finally, let's go to Shahzad, who I know, whose work in the past I've been very familiar with, drawing certainly on Iranian history and culture. Salam, how are you? You're on mute still, I think. Sec. Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes, thank you. We can.
Okay. I want to start to speak about my jewelry collection and project. Actually, I started jewelry making with working according to Jira in Qajar era, and it was for my BA Bachelor of Arts project. Jira was a symbolic jewelry for the king in my ancient history, and only the king can use it, and in the front of his crown. In both form and meaning, Jira is very significant because king is God's representative on the earth. So which jewelry is suitable to him? Because of this, Jira is very important piece and jewelry. We have some of them in our museum in Tehran. In the Jira collection, I don't have more than 5 editions for each work. Most of them without more edition, and they are just they are unique. Technique to making is important here for me. I work with metals according to an Iranian ancient method that named Davatgari. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Almost in my all works, in their form and shape, the holes are symbol for the Jire's expensive and valuable stones. The holes here are instead of diamonds and akat and etc. Yeah, this is some about my Jire collection. But recently, means nowadays, because of coronavirus, I think all of my friends, we are working a lot with social networks. So it's about me too. I have my gallery in Tehran. It's for about 1 year, but nowadays it's about 2 months as I didn't go there, and I'm in social networks. My website is stronger than my gallery nowadays. So it is a problem, I think, for all people in the world.
So what are some of the popular social networks where people are connecting now?
Instagram, actually. Instagram, and I work with some people about my website to make it stronger, yeah, them.
Mm-hmm. And that's certainly good for people outside Iran as well, to be able to connect. And I think your work is an example of what for me is one of the key elements in Iranian art and craft, which is drawing on the layers of Iranian history, which, as we know, go back millennia. And for me, it's a kind of a key scene of the craft renaissance, which is occurring across the wider world as cultures look to their heritage and find a way of translating it into the contemporary world in order to understand identity and place. And Iran is fortunate to have so many rich layers that individual artists can pick and choose to a degree for their particular aesthetic, and their particular ideas, what they want to show in their work, as you do in the Kahar period, which is a particular strong image that is represented in your jewelry. So thank you so much, Shahzad. So let's all come back together now and think about rounding this discussion off, bringing it to a conclusion by thinking about the future in Iran, what you see emerging, what will happen as a result of this lockdown, what you think will have changed for the good or for the bad as a result. Obviously, Iran itself has been through radical changes in history. This may not seem as great compared to other countries, but what do you think the impact of this experience will be in Iran? Would anyone like to offer an opinion about that?
Oh.
Yes, Shahzad?
Sorry, I didn't understand you.
What do you think the future will be? What do you see the future as being for Iran coming out of the lockdown?
You mean about the working? Yeah. Future in working. Yeah, it is nowadays. I think a lot about that. It is a problem, I think, for all the world, not just us. But I said nowadays I'm strong in my website and Instagram. I speak a lot with my friends nowadays. Not see them. Not I can't see them like before. So it's important, I think, for future. And I think we have some happening for future. Yeah.
So that seems a positive element in terms of the connections. And I guess in terms of your interest in building on people's experience of the local cultures through that connection, developing these projects.
Yeah, I think now the experience, the word experience maybe is different, because before it was visiting a place, seeing the crafts, maybe seeing the workshops and buying. But now it's everything has been changed. Maybe we can, as a solution, it's not a good or bad thing, but as a solution, we can put these experiences into the online platforms. I mean that it is good to have connections, direct connections with artists, that before it was impossible, but now the people can connect to their artists, and it's, I think, good for the customers. And also they can have the different process of making one special object, not the public one. I mean that you have just the photos of a process, but when you have this process, especially for you as a personal image of the thing that an artist are making for you, the feeling is different, and maybe it is a good way to develop the art of someone or the work that somebody do. So I think it is different. The experience is different right now, and we should do this experience in a different way. And we should introduce this experience in a different way.
We'll look forward to seeing that. And I think on the other hand, in terms of the studio, and I'm thinking about what you've said, Afsaneh, Rehani and Mahnaz, that this is quite a good time for focus, for thinking and making, because you are more isolated. Is that right? That it's quite a creative time?
Yes, I think it's quite a creative time, because at first I was in stress, but after some weeks, I can say, I try to control my mind and my stress and anxiety, and I defined some project to myself. For example, one of them was a picture that you saw, and one of them was a papier-mâché tree that it was 2 meters. The object that I've never been make it before. And the situation forced me to do some new things for myself. And I think many artists are the same in this way with me.
Mm. You would agree, Afsaneh and Mahnaz?
First week it was so
Yes, Debbie.
confusing.
Sorry.
Mahnaz?
Sorry, do you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know, Kevin, it's easy for me to talk about this period like this, because I'm okay, my friends, my family, we are all okay. Because of that, I can say it was a period that I think a lot, I concentrate, I grow up. But for other people, it wasn't like this. It was a really sad period. A lot of people lost their work, lost their family. It's not easy, I think it's a little cruel if I say I think a lot, I learned a lot, because one part of me is so sad. It's the truth. And I cannot say a lot of people think. I know something will change in the future, like virtual life. It's role of virtual life. It became more important this period. But in the future, I think a lot of things will become normal. Just I think they will do what they did before, and just we will continue to, I don't know, to ruin this earth.
Wow, it's something to keep in mind. And Afsaneh, would you also agree that there's also room for some sadness at what people have experienced, but at the same time that it's been quite creative.
First week of this happening, epidemic virus, it was so confusing. As an artist, you think about everything. You think about the people who lost their lives, and we lost our routine, you know. And after many times, maybe after 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going back to work, and naturally, I affected by this happen. You know, this happened affected on my color and the subject and everything. So the galleries are going to open right now, and they have both online and visiting together. So we don't know what's going on. We don't know what will happen in the future. In my opinion, we just keep working and working and working. You know, something has changed, and we should find our way to match and find our way with this. It's my opinion about this happening right now, because I don't know what we can do. We just be patient and help each other as work you do for the people, you know, for the artisan people, you know, and just this.
Thank you so much for that thought that you leave us with, Afsaneh. Just finally, as we're coming to an end, perhaps if the rest of you would be able to leave with a farewell message, particularly to Garland readers and to the wider world. Anahita,
Yes.
would you like to say something?
I just want to say something. As this coronavirus just is worldwide spreading, it just reminds us that all of us are members of a body. And these borders that we put are sometimes meaningless. So maybe it's just chance to remind us that we are all together, and maybe here this networking and sharing things together through internet just helps us to be connected and work as a force against this virus. Just this.
Very well said, certainly. Kambiz, do you have any message that you'd like to offer to finish things?
I think that this situation give us a different seeing about the thing that the event that are around us. You know, the coronavirus had a very good aspect for us also. We found out the value of networking, the value of internet and interconnection. And I know with many people in the poor country that they organize the live dialogue via Instagram and WhatsApp, and with this connection, they had able to share the value of their culture, the value of their history and their artwork. I think that in the future of Iran, we continue this ability. And I think that the internet now for the poor provinces is a way for empowerment the people and for sharing their values. I think that the coronavirus virus had the good aspect also for all the people, especially for the Iranian people. And I think that this situation create us very close to us with the virtual connections.
Wonderful.
Yes.
That's very inspiring. Mahnaz from Milan, do you have a final word you would like to offer us?
No, just thank you, Kevin, and all of you, and I hope a better future for all of the world.
Much appreciated. Missy?
Yes, I think, you know, Kevin, from Australia, we are sitting in a very privileged place, and I'm very conscious of that. Knowing so many people in Iran and how hard it's been for so many countries and how many people have died. And I hope, you know, in Australia, and I'm sure lots of other countries, and we've spoken of it, that we've been forced to slow down, we've been forced to learn technology, and in some ways we've become more connected with people. Like this, for example, is fantastic, and I think, why can't we do this all the time, you know, outside of a pandemic? You know, to see Afsane's beautiful face instead of, you know, having to wait every year until I travel to Iran to see her. It's so easy now through Zoom. So I hope we don't forget these things, you know, learning and the positives that are coming out of such a tragic and difficult time. And I also just want all the Iranian people and Iranian artists who are listening today to know that you're not forgotten, and we love you, and we're here for you, and we're happy to help in any way we can, because we know we're all going to come out of it with challenging times ahead, and we're not quite sure what they look like yet. But yeah, we do sit in a very privileged place, and so, you know, we are here to help, and you're not alone.
Certainly concur with that, Narges in Mashhad. Final word?
Yeah, just as a final word, I'm a little worried about the people who live in far villages with no access to internet or something, and they lost their jobs. So I think that these panels and discussions are a good way to find a way to help them, or maybe make them networks and connections, people who has access to these people, to the world, and to help them. And I want to just finish my speaking with a poem of Sadi. بنی آدم اعضای یکدیگرند که در آفرینش ز یک گوهرند. چه عضوی به درد آورد روزگار، دگر عضوها را نماند قرار. It means that we are just all the parts of a body, and when we have a pain in one part of the body, all the part of the body have pain. You feel pain in all of the body. So I think that this is a time the coronavirus had just learned, teach us, and we have learned from that to be kind to each other, and borders has no meanings. And also we should be more kind to the nature.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for this discussion. It was very useful.
Testament to how useful Iranian culture is for dealing with these situations, to draw on that poetry. Rehani, final word?
Yeah, I think we as artists could affect on the situation, on the people mind, and we could affect to people, we could help to people if we could keep calm ourselves as far as we can. So I keep calm, I try mindfulness practices or something like that. And as final word, I want to thank you, Kevin, and thank Mrs. Anahita for the conversation.
Wonderful, thank you. And finally, a final word, Shahzad Aliari.
Yeah, I hope, actually, I hope good things for our planet, all people, because of recent events, recent happenings. But I know everything will be very good because human is very strong, and I am energetic too. I will work, but I know this is a very important and historical point right now we are in. So I hope everything will be good. And I said I'm energetic to continue and work. And finally, I'm really happy to see my friends and actually you, Mr. Kevin. It was a long time didn't speaking, so really was happy. Thank you.
Likewise, certainly. So thank you so much for your time, but also for speaking in English, your foreign tongue. The fact that you did that and you all spoke so beautifully is very impressive. And as you might know, Garland completes its journey this year. We've got Africa, then Indonesia, then South America to come. And next year we'll begin Garland 2.0, where we hope to bring all the people who've been part of the journey together to share on similar issues and questions. So the Iranian perspective on these will be most welcome, and hopefully you can continue as part of this network. Your voice is very much appreciated. For a long time, Iran has been seen as isolated because of geopolitics, particularly in recent years with the current president of the United States. But in a way now, we're all isolated. And so we share, although we are separated, we actually, I think, feel closer together through this process. And many of you have remarked on that. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your thoughts and your beautiful works. And long may you continue to make them. Khora Hafez and Hastanabashi. Thank you.
Yes.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Kevin.
Kevin.
Goodbye.
Khadafez.
Hafiz.
Khadafez.